News.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got to talk about another plane went down. Um, Second one in 24 hours. Was apparently carrying four people, a mother and a child, going to pediatric care. And I fully
Yes.
expect Republicans will again blame Biden, and they will say it is DEI because the plane was coming out of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Never mind the fact that
Yeah.
all people on board were here legally. They were seeking treatment out of Philadelphia and were making a transfer over to Springfield, Missouri. All people on board died in a very fiery explosion landing on several buildings. It appears as though it may have clipped a building, according to some of the footage, or several buildings, and was destroyed in the middle of a street. So this is what we're looking at.
Just
The
want to
story is still
clarify
unfolding here. Mm-hmm.
there was six on board. There were four. I think there was two pilots, two medical, and then there was the two patients. Sorry, I should have made that
Yep.
clear. Um, Saw the explosion. It was not good. So, and obviously we've had stuff going on with aviation in the United States for some time now. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal is, but it looks like it's all sort of manifesting. We know that there's been a lot more close encounters. I actually, before this, maybe like a month ago, I read a report. There's been a lot more close encounters at airports than in previous years, probably due to understaffing and more traffic on the runways. But yes, there's been a lot more near misses, and there has been a lot more technical issues with airplanes over the last few years. So it's going to be interesting to know how Trump responds, probably by gutting the FAA and then giving
Yep.
it off to a private company so that nobody wants to fly anymore. So
The
it is
FAA is
sad that every time
still
that stuff like
conducting
this
an investigation.
happens,
Hmm.
every time stuff like this happens, they just go straight into the political blame game. It's the only move that they
Yep.
have. If this happened under a Biden presidency, it would be Biden's fault, and also not only would it be Biden's fault, there'd be 9 million conspiracy theories around it.
Oh yeah.
I have no idea where the conspiracy. I don't know where the conspiracy theories are, but So I won't be flying for the foreseeable future. Make my determination later on whether or not it's a safe thing to do. But with Trump's gutting the FAA and TSA and literally every agency in government, um, I don't have a lot of faith in them. He fired the FAA director resigned
Hmm.
because of Elon Musk. The TSA director resigned. The Coast Guard director resigned. So, or were fired. So it's going to get a lot worse. And he got rid of safety advisory committees. Now he's blaming Biden. And it's at times like this where it's like you need to have clear pictures so that you can make accurate assessments on how to actually, move forward. Usually, what happens is a major investigation, and that investigation produces guidance. And the reason the United States and other countries have not had a lot of planes go down is because of that guidance. And I fear that the person Trump puts in place is not going to be intelligent enough to understand how to deduce through investigation courses of action. And at a time, especially when we needed more responsiveness, when we needed the FAA to take more drastic actions to protect airspaces, they're now talking about cuts and deregulations and handing it TSA off to private security and a whole host of things. So it's a bit concerning, and I'll be staying off of planes for now.
Yes. Trump said today that he wants nearly all federal jobs to be relegated to the private sector. Now, this, of course, doesn't establish or address any of the facts that these industries aren't hiring in large part, or the fact that they lack the resources, communications, any of the things that otherwise would be necessary and available under federal contracts, under federal jurisdiction. But this is his suggestion, and unfortunately, we're going to see lots of people leaving this field and lots more incidents like this happening. The fact that this is the second one within 48 hours is very telling.
Yeah. So there's we get to look forward to a bunch of this stuff. All the Republicans
Yep.
have been very quiet about blaming the president so far. Just want to point that out.
There was
Um,
one that spoke against
all
him in his cries of it being DEI. This was Sam Graves out of Missouri. He's a chair, or he oversees the Federal Aviation Administration in the House and chairs the House Transportation Committee. Cited that all of the people on board were experienced, had years of flight experience under their belt, and that DEI programs had no real correlation to this incident.
right. So at least one Republican got it
Yeah,
right.
but not
Also in the
enough.
news today, Trump continues scrubbing anything that he views as being bad from government websites, including, I guess I just heard this, HIV has been removed from the CDC website. Is that
Hmm.
right? Like
That's
full
right.
blown?
Yes. Hmm. They're making efforts of
Okay.
scrubbing forms, programs, languages, terminology, and full web pages having to do with, quote, gender ideology extremism from the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Additionally, the
I thought they were
Agriculture
against.
Department cited that language having to do and pages having to do with climate change have now been snubbed as well.
I thought they were against censorship.
Nope.
Also, they've
No.
removed LGBT, or they've removed the T and Q from LGBTQ.
Hmm.
Um, so very clearly, they're trying to target that group. Um, Obviously, in the past, they've removed the Constitution at one point and various other articles from WhiteHouse.gov. It's pretty disturbing. It's pretty gross. I don't know how anybody actually supports it, but this is the world that we're in. Yeah.
And
Um,
on the subject of
what else is?
government purges, there were 88 FBI
Mm-hmm.
agents who had worked under Trump cases directly had been physically escorted out of the Washington field office. There were several from the Justice Department that had been fired today. Every person associated with the January 6th prosecution has been fired. This is a slippery slope of replacing dignified and professional and nonpartisan actors in government with yes men. And what this means in terms of furthering his crimes or covering up his crimes or allowing other crimes to persist is just that. That there's going to be fewer instances of checks and balances of the government doing the right thing and holding this corrupt administration accountable, and more will be swept under the rug.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of unqualified people taking over those roles, a lot of really bad lawyers. And I don't know if you know about this, but being a federal prosecutor, they usually take a lot of pride in. It's usually really good prosecutors. Um, and we're not going to see that. And the fear, I think, is that you're going to watch a lot of international criminal organizations walk. You're going to watch a lot of cases fail because of foreseeable errors by unqualified or not very good prosecutors. And the world's going to be a
And
more
sabotage.
unsafe place for it. Right? It's not going to be particularly good in that regard. I foresee a lot of people in a lot of cases of people that shouldn't walk walking. Um, we'll have to see, but as of right now, that is going to be my assessment on the situation. Um, I do want to bring this up. It's not entirely related, but I did see a video today in Sunnyside, Washington. I spent a lot of time there growing up. Very familiar with the area. Um, I think it was Sunnyside Granger. Anyways, cops pulled over two Hispanic people and they recorded the incident, and it was ICE. It said, "Oh, you're someone we're looking for. We're looking for someone that matches your description." And I think that that is what they're going to use for these illegal stops to profile people. I think that's the very clear move, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of that emerge. I've talked about the problem with police just stopping anyone, and it has to do with racial profiling. So they're going to be like, no, I got a text from my buddy down the road. I called my buddy. He said there was this, you know what I mean? Something like that where they can try and work around it for violating people's rights. Will that work? Don't know. But that appears to be what they're going to do. And this is already something cops know about, something they already do. Um, so yeah. But in regards, and in that to that regard, there would be federal prosecutors that are bringing, cases for violating civil rights, and this is not going to happen. None of those are gonna emerge. So it's all kind of
And
just shitty,
lastly,
you know.
yes,
Just a little bit not great, you know.
yes,
Just a
indeed.
little bit.
Lastly, cost of living is about to go up considerably so. Tariffs slapped on Mexico, on Canada, and China have now hit effective tomorrow, Saturday, February 1st. We're seeing 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports, on all Mexican imports, and 10%, going very tepidly, on China here. Uh, Retaliatory tariffs are now in force. Trudeau has indicated that this will be the pathway of moving in the direction against the United States. We're seeing right now Denmark has announced some 500% on prescriptive drugs, including Ozempic. Millions that rely on that for diabetes and weight control are now to be affected with higher cost of that. Additionally, things such as oil and electricity coming from Canada is set to go up because of these tariffs.
Yes, we're gonna watch pretty significant price increases. Talked a little bit about it earlier on the show. Companies are gonna jack up prices and they're gonna blame tariffs for it. Doesn't matter how much of their stuff is imported or not. That's exactly what they're gonna
Hmm.
do. They're gonna jack the prices up.
And per the
You also have
announcement
to
of
remember they
this,
have
we
to
saw a major
prepare.
stock market crash.
Yeah. So what did they lose? 400 points today.
Hmm.
Um, it's probably. I don't know what's going to happen in the market. I don't know that anybody does on Monday, but it's probably not going to be good. Probably, and it's going to be like sheer panic out the gate. Um, I imagine. I don't know if the Trump administration has that much foresight, but I imagine that they did this on a Saturday, so that the market has time to sort of not panic. But I don't know what's going to happen Monday. Whether or not it's just going to be sheer panic, whether everybody sells out of everything, couldn't tell you. But long term, this will inherently be bad. This is a weird spot because like corporate profits may increase. The financial condition of the United States will decrease though because corporations are going to use this as a way to rake in more profit. The question is how much more or less are they going to be selling? And to that I don't know. So,
And that's
was
our
that it?
news
Did
for
we
the
get all the
day.
news?
That is the
Let's
news. Yep.
go. We got it. We did it. We
So,
did it.
can I just
Yay.
wrap it up
Yay.
real quick? Like in the last 11 days, we've seen a Nazi on our stage in America behind the presidential sill. We've seen an entire marginalized community denied their existence. Two planes have crashed out of the sky, and it's hasn't been 2 weeks yet. Is that my understanding?
Yep.
Like
That's
the
correct.
economy's crashing, the stock market crashed. We're about to pay a ton more just for like, I don't know, tequila.
Yeah.
They've tariffed Ozempic, which is mainly for diabetics, 500%. Um, and it's just 2 weeks in. That's awesome. That's great. That's great.